hold on to your seats, because this week the UK is embroiled in one of its most explosive political sagas yet. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is under siege from all sides, and at the forefront of the outrage is none other than Jeremy Clarkson, the outspoken star of Clarkson's Farm. From the picturesque countryside of Britain to the bustling streets of Westminster, anger over inheritance tax hikes, farming crises, and climate hypocrisy has reached a boiling point. The scandal erupted when Starmer made the controversial decision to attend the COP29 climate conference in Baku, Azerbaijan, jetting 2,500 miles away from a nation on the brink of a farming revolt. Farmers across the country are furious over a new tax policy they say threatens to destroy family farms, while Jeremy Clarkson has unleashed a blistering attack on the Prime Minister for virtue signalling abroad instead of addressing domestic chaos. But that's just the beginning. In the last 24 hours, reports emerged that Starmer fled from an angry group of protesting farmers outside the Welsh Labour conference, sneaking out the back door rather than facing the crowd. And with farmers planning to take to the streets of Westminster this week, this scandal is spiralling out of control. The question on everyone's lips: has Starmer completely lost touch with the people he serves? And here's the breaking twist. Jeremy Clarkson has now thrown his full weight behind the farming protests, calling them a fight for the survival of Britain's countryside. Meanwhile, the government is doubling down, insisting the new tax measures are necessary to stabilise the economy. Stay with us as we unpack every fiery detail: the inheritance tax bombshell that's threatening to destroy small farms, Clarkson's unfiltered criticisms, and the public backlash engulfing Keir Starmer's government. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more updates on this explosive story. It all began last week when Starmer boarded a flight to Azerbaijan to attend the COP29 climate conference. This summit, aimed at tackling climate change, was billed as a key moment for global leaders to show their commitment to reducing emissions. Starmer took the stage to announce the UK's ambitious plan to cut emissions by 81% by 2035, calling it leadership in action. But while Starmer basked in the spotlight, critics back home were quick to point out the irony. The conference was snubbed by key global leaders, including China's Xi Jinping, Russia's Vladimir Putin, and even President-elect Donald Trump. Instead of addressing pressing domestic issues, Starmer was accused of wasting time and taxpayer money on a largely symbolic event. Jeremy Clarkson, never one to shy away from controversy, delivered a scathing critique of the summit in his latest column. Comparing the event to a rock concert without the Stones or Led Zeppelin, Clarkson mocked Starmer for prioritising virtue signalling over real action. He dismissed the conference as a pointless exercise, accusing leaders of using it as a platform for demanding £100 trillion from the West while achieving nothing of substance. Starmer's presence was a waste of time, Clarkson wrote. The only people who benefited were Baku's oil merchants, luxury hotels, and night ladies. Clarkson's fury wasn't limited to the climate conference. His real anger stems from Chancellor Rachel Reeves's controversial inheritance tax changes unveiled in the autumn budget. Starting in April 2026, farming estates valued at over £1 million will face a 20% inheritance tax, up from the previous tax-free status for agricultural properties. For Britain's farmers, this policy isn't just a financial burden, it's an existential crisis. Analysis by the National Farmers Union, NFU, has revealed the devastating impact of the new tax. A typical family farm worth just over the threshold would face a £435,000 tax bill, requiring 159% of its annual profits for a decade to pay off. Many farmers say they'll have no choice but to sell up to 20% of their land, threatening the viability of family-run operations. The NFU has warned that this could mark the death of the family farm, with catastrophic consequences for Britain's food security. Farmers argue the tax will lead to higher food prices, reduced domestic food production, and an increased reliance on foreign imports, all while rural communities face financial ruin. The backlash against the inheritance tax changes boiled over at the Welsh Labour conference, where hundreds of farmers staged a tractor protest outside the venue, brandishing signs with slogans like "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." The protesters demanded that Starmer address their concerns directly. Gareth Wynne-Jones, one of the protest's organisers, accused the government of destroying the very industry that sustains the nation. "They're taxing us out of existence," he said. "Farming isn't just a business. It's our way of life. Without family farms, who's going to produce the food this country needs? But instead of facing the protesters, Starmer reportedly exited the building through a back door, avoiding any interaction. For the farmers, this was the ultimate insult. "He wasn't man enough to face us," Wyn Jones fumed. "We came to fight for our livelihoods, and he sneaks off like a coward. It's disgraceful." Amid the growing uproar, Jeremy Clarkson has emerged as a powerful voice for Britain's farmers. Since launching his hit Amazon series Clarkson's Farm, the former Top Gear host has become an unlikely champion of rural communities, using his platform to highlight the struggles of small farmers. Clarkson has thrown his full support behind the upcoming Westminster protests, describing them as a fight for the survival of British agriculture. He blasted the inheritance tax changes as catastrophic, warning that they could cripple the industry. "This isn't about wealthy landowners," Clarkson said. "This is about families who've worked the land for generations being taxed into oblivion. It's madness." Caleb Cooper, Clarkson's co-star and a vocal advocate for farmers, echoed his sentiments. "The budget is a slap in the face," Cooper said. "It shows just how little this government understands or cares about the challenges we face." Under pressure from all sides, Starmer has tried to defend the inheritance tax changes, insisting they're aimed at wealthy landowners, not ordinary farmers. For most couples with a farm, the £1 million farmland threshold, combined with the spouse exemption, means £3 million before they pay a penny in inheritance tax, Starmer claimed in a recent speech. But farmers argue these calculations ignore the realities of modern agriculture. Many small family farms, particularly in the south and east of England, are valued well over £1 million due to rising land prices, not because they're profitable. Recent polling shows the public is siding with the farmers. Nearly 70% of Britons believe the inheritance tax changes are unfair and could threaten the nation's food security. As tensions escalate, Tuesday's planned protests in Westminster are shaping up to be a defining moment. Thousands of farmers, supported by high-profile figures like Clarkson, are expected to descend on the capital, demanding a reversal of the inheritance tax changes. For the farmers, this is more than a protest. It's a fight for their livelihoods and the future of rural Britain. And for Keir Starmer, it's a critical test of his leadership. Will he finally address the growing discontent, or will he continue to evade the backlash? One thing's for certain, with Jeremy Clarkson leading the charge and public anger reaching a fever pitch, this scandal is far from over. This isn't just about taxes, it's about the survival of an industry that feeds the nation, the preservation of rural communities, and the broader question of who Keir Starmer's government really represents. With protests looming and pressure mounting, the stakes couldn't be higher. For Clarkson, this is a chance to amplify the voices of farmers who feel abandoned. For Starmer, it's a make-or-break moment that could define his tenure as Prime Minister. And for Britain, it's a fight for the soul of its countryside.